The air in the Jedi Temple was thick with a tension that even the Force struggled to dissipate. Anakin Skywalker, his face etched with a desperate resolve, stood before a holographic projection of Supreme Chancellor Palpatine. Beside him, not in opposition, but in a shared, uneasy silence, were Obi-Wan Kenobi and Ahsoka Tano. The news of Mace Windu's death, twisted by Palpatine's silver tongue into a treacherous Jedi coup, had shattered their already fragile faith in the Council. Obi-Wan, his usual calm demeanor replaced by a haunted weariness, had seen the Council's arrogance, their blindness to the war's true cost. Ahsoka, still reeling from her unjust expulsion and the Council's subsequent lack of genuine remorse, felt a deep-seated betrayal. Anakin, consumed by the fear of losing Padme and convinced the Jedi were holding him back from unimaginable power, saw a path to salvation in Palpatine's promises. The Jedi have betrayed the Republic. Palpatine's voice purred, his eyes fixed on Anakin, yet sweeping over Obi-Wan and Ahsoka. They seek to usurp control, to plunge the galaxy into chaos. Only a strong hand, a new order, can bring true peace. Anakin turned to his former master and his former Padawan. He speaks the truth, Master. Ahsoka, the Jedi, they failed us. They failed the Republic. This power, this order, it can save Padme. It can save everyone. His eyes, usually warm, now held a dangerous glint, reflecting the nascent darkness. Obi-Wan looked at Anakin, then at Ahsoka. He saw not a fallen Jedi, but a desperate young man, a reflection of his own fears for the future. He remembered the countless times the Council had been rigid, unyielding. He remembered the prophecy, the chosen one, and a chilling thought took root. What if this is the path? What if the Jedi's way was flawed, and true balance required a different approach? Ahsoka, her leku twitching with inner turmoil, saw the pain in Anakin's eyes, the conviction in his voice. She had always trusted him, even when the Council had not, and she knew, deep down, that the Jedi had indeed failed her. If Anakin believed this was the only way to protect what he loved, and to bring order to a galaxy ravaged by war, could she truly stand against him? In that pivotal moment, instead of drawing their lightsabers, Obi-Wan and Ahsoka lowered their gazes, a silent, terrible assent. For the greater good, Obi-Wan murmured, the words tasting like ash in his mouth. Ahsoka nodded, a single tear tracing a path down her cheek. The transition was swift and brutal. Anakin, now Darth Vader, wasted no time. With Obi-Wan and Ahsoka by his side, the purge of the Jedi Temple was not just a massacre, but a coordinated, efficient extermination. Obi-Wan, his blue blade now, a chilling extension of his new purpose, moved with a detached precision, hunting down former comrades. Ahsoka, her white blades now crackling with a faint, unsettling crimson hue, used her agility and cunning to corner and eliminate her targets. The galaxy reeled, not just from the rise of the Empire, but from the shocking defection of two of the Jedi's most respected figures. As the Empire solidified its grip, the Shadowed Trinity became Palpatine's most formidable enforcers. Vader, consumed by the DarkSide, was a force of nature. Obi-Wan, now known as Lord Kenobi, adopted a cold, strategic ruthlessness, his wisdom twisted into calculated cruelty. Ahsoka, Lady Tano, became a terrifyingly efficient hunter, her empathy replaced by a chilling pragmatism. They hunted down surviving Jedi, crushed nascent rebellions, and enforced the Emperor's will with unwavering zeal. Yet beneath the veneer of power, the cracks began to show. Obi-Wan saw the suffering of innocence, the systematic oppression, and the fear that now permeated every corner of the galaxy. He remembered the Jedi Code, the ideals he had once held so dear, and the stark contrast to the Empire's reality gnawed at his soul. Ahsoka, witnessing the brutal suppression of dissent, the destruction of worlds that dared to resist, felt a growing hollowness. The order they had helped create was built on terror, not peace. Their relationship, once a strong bond of master, apprentice, and friend, became strained. Vader, further consumed by the DarkSide, grew increasingly volatile and unpredictable, his actions often shocking even Obi-Wan and Ahsoka. They found themselves rationalizing less and less, and questioning more and more. The turning point came on a desolate, forgotten world where they cornered a small band of surviving Jedi, led by a wizened master who had once trained alongside Obi-Wan. As Vader prepared to deliver the killing blow, the old master looked at Obi-Wan, then at Ahsoka, with eyes that held no fear, only profound sadness. "You have lost your way," he whispered, his voice resonating with the Force. "But the light, it is always there, even in the deepest shadows." Something in that gaze, that unwavering light, shattered the illusions Obi-Wan and Ahsoka had built around themselves. They saw the true horror of what they had become. The greater good was a lie. The Order was tyranny. In a moment of desperate, unspoken understanding, Obi-Wan and Ahsoka moved, not against the Jedi Master, but against Vader. Their lightsabers, once instruments of darkness, now clashed with his, a desperate, futile attempt at redemption. The battle was short, brutal, and utterly devastating. Vader, fueled by the full might of the DarkSide and his rage at their betrayal, was an unstoppable force. Obi-Wan fought with the desperation of a man trying to reclaim his soul, but Vader's power was overwhelming. Ahsoka, her agility, a whirlwind of defiance, managed to land a few desperate blows, but it was not enough. In the end, they fell, not as heroes, but as tragic figures who had glimpsed the true cost of their choices too late. Their deaths at the hands of Darth Vader were a stark warning to any who dared to question the Emperor. The galaxy mourned their loss, even as it feared their names. Their legacy became a twisted tale of betrayal and corruption, a cautionary legend whispered in the shadows. But for a few, those who still clung to hope, their final, desperate act of defiance, however brief, was a testament that even the deepest shadows could not entirely extinguish the light. The rebellion, small and scattered, would eventually rise, fueled in part by the very tyranny that had consumed the Shadowed Trinity. The Jedi Temple, usually a beacon of serenity, now hummed with a disquieting unease. Obi-Wan Kenobi, his shoulders heavy with the weight of years of conflict, felt a profound weariness settle deep within his bones. He had witnessed the Jedi Council's increasing detachment, their rigid adherence to ancient dogma blinding them to the shifting tides of the galaxy. The war, meant to preserve the Republic, had instead eroded their principles, forcing them into roles they were ill-suited for. He'd seen their arrogance, their inability to adapt, and their frequent misjudgments. The very ideals he had dedicated his life to seemed to crumble before his eyes. Beside him stood Ahsoka Tano, her usual vibrant energy muted by a deep-seated resentment. The memory of her unjust expulsion from the Jedi Order, a wound that had never truly healed, festered within her. The Council's subsequent half-hearted apology had done little to mend the profound betrayal she felt. They had doubted her, abandoned her, and then expected her to simply return to their fold. Their lack of genuine remorse, their inability to truly acknowledge their error, had cemented her disillusionment. She had always believed in the Jedi, but their actions had shown her a colder, more fallible side. Now, as Anakin Skywalker, their friend and former Padawan, stood before the holographic image of Supreme Chancellor Palpatine, the air crackled with a dangerous tension. The news of Mace Windu's death, spun by Palpatine's insidious whispers into a tale of Jedi treachery, struck a raw nerve for both Obi-Wan and Ahsoka. It confirmed their worst fears. The Jedi were indeed flawed, perhaps even fatally so. Their faith, already fragile, shattered under the weight of this perceived final betrayal. In that moment, the line between light and dark, once so clear, blurred into an unsettling gray. In that pivotal, suffocating moment within the Jedi Temple, the air crackled with more than just the hum of holographic projections. Anakin Skywalker, his face, a mask of desperate conviction, turned from Palpatine's insidious image to face Obi-Wan Kenobi and Ahsoka Tano. "He speaks the truth, Master. Ahsoka." Anakin pleaded, his voice laced with a raw, undeniable pain. "The Jedi! They failed us. They failed the Republic. This power, this order, it can save Padme. It can save everyone." His eyes, once a window to his conflicted soul, now held a dangerous, nascent darkness, reflecting the seductive promises of the Sith Lord. Obi-Wan, his usual steadfastness wavering, looked at Anakin. He saw not the monster the Council would condemn, but a young man driven to the brink by fear and love, a mirror to his own anxieties for the galaxy's future. He recalled the Jedi's rigid ways, their unyielding dogma, and the countless times they had seemed blind to the true nature of the war. A chilling, almost heretical thought took root. What if the Jedi's path was indeed flawed? What if true balance, true peace, required a drastic, unconventional approach? Could this dark power, if wielded by those who understood its dangers, be controlled for a greater good? Ahsoka, her leku twitching with internal turmoil, felt the pull of Anakin's desperation. She had always trusted him, even when the entire Jedi Council had turned their backs on her. The sting of their betrayal was still fresh, a festering wound that Palpatine's words, echoing Anakin's, seemed to soothe with a promise of a new, more just order. If Anakin, her brother-in-arms, truly believed this was the only way to protect those he loved and to bring stability to a war-torn galaxy, could she in good conscience stand against him? Her loyalty to him, forged in countless battles, wrestled with her Jedi training. In that agonizing beat, instead of igniting their lightsabers in defiance, Obi-Wan and Ahsoka lowered their gazes. It was a silent, terrible assent. "For the greater good," Obi-Wan murmured, the words tasting like ash in his mouth, a desperate rationalization. Ahsoka, a lone tear tracing a path down her cheek, nodded. In that shared, unspoken decision, they stepped into the shadow, choosing to join Anakin, believing they could either guide him back from the brink or perhaps bend the dark side to their own twisted vision of order. The transition was swift and brutal, a horrifying testament to the power of a unified dark side. Anakin, now fully consumed by the insidious whispers of Palpatine and the fear that had driven him, wasted no time in embracing his new identity as Darth Vader. But unlike the original timeline, he was not alone. By his side, their lightsabers now extensions of a chilling new purpose, stood Obi-Wan Kenobi and Ahsoka Tano. The purge of the Jedi Temple, usually a chaotic massacre, became a coordinated, terrifyingly efficient extermination. Obi-Wan, his once familiar blue blade now a chilling instrument of his new allegiance, moved with a detached precision that belied his former compassion. He hunted down former comrades, his movements fluid and deadly, his knowledge of the temple's layout and the Jedi's fighting styles making him an unparalleled, internal threat. He engaged masters and Padawans alike, his blows precise, his eyes devoid of the warmth they once held. Ahsoka, her once bright white blades now crackling with a faint, unsettling crimson hue, was equally devastating. Her agility and cunning, honed over years of fighting alongside the Republic's finest, were now twisted to serve the Empire. She used her acrobatic prowess to corner and eliminate her targets, her movements a blur of lethal grace. The Jedi, who had once known her as a bright, hopeful Padawan, now faced a terrifyingly efficient hunter, her empathy replaced by a chilling pragmatism that allowed her to strike down those she had once called family. With the combined might of Vader's raw power, Obi-Wan's strategic ruthlessness, and Ahsoka's cunning precision, the Jedi Order was systematically dismantled from within. The galaxy reeled, not just from the sudden terrifying rise of the Galactic Empire, but from the shocking, unthinkable defection of two of the Jedi's most respected and beloved figures. The Shadowed Trinity had emerged, and their chilling efficiency in wiping out the Jedi was a dark harbinger of the totalitarian rule that was to come. As the Empire solidified its iron grip across the galaxy, the Shadowed Trinity became the Emperor's most formidable enforcers. Darth Vader, now a terrifying force of nature, moved with unbridled power. By his side, Obi-Wan, now chillingly referred to as Lord Kenobi, adopted a cold, strategic ruthlessness. His renowned wisdom, once used for guidance and peace, was twisted into calculated cruelty, applied to crushing dissent and enforcing the Emperor's will. Ahsoka, known as Lady Tano, transformed into a terrifyingly efficient hunter, her vibrant empathy replaced by a chilling pragmatism that allowed her to carry out brutal orders without outward hesitation. Yet, Beneath the veneer of their newfound power and the dark side's seductive influence, the cracks began to show. Obi-Wan, haunted by the echoes of the Jedi code he had once sworn to uphold, witnessed the systematic oppression of innocence. He saw worlds stripped bare, populations enslaved, and the pervasive fear that now permeated every corner of the galaxy. The stark contrast between the ideals he had once held so dear and the Empire's horrifying reality gnawed at his soul, a constant, dull ache that the dark side could not entirely numb. Ahsoka, too, felt a growing hollowness. She witnessed the brutal suppression of any who dared to resist, the wanton destruction of worlds that simply sought freedom. The order they had helped create, she slowly realized, was not built on peace or justice, but on terror and absolute control. The subtle corruption of the dark side manifested differently in them. For Obi-Wan, it was a deepening weariness, a constant battle against his conscience. For Ahsoka, it was a chilling detachment, a slow erosion of her vibrant spirit, leaving behind a cold, efficient shell. They found themselves rationalizing less and less, and questioning more and more, as the true face of the Empire revealed itself in all its horrifying tyranny. The bond between Darth Vader, Lord Kenobi, and Lady Tano, once forged in the fires of shared purpose and a twisted sense of loyalty, began to fray with agonizing slowness. What had started as a desperate alliance, born of disillusionment and fear, curdled into a strained, almost unbearable coexistence. Vader, consumed ever deeper by the dark side, became increasingly volatile and unpredictable. His actions, fueled by an insatiable rage and a chilling disregard for life, often shocked even Obi-Wan and Ahsoka, who had thought themselves prepared for the darkness. There were incidents that chipped away at their resolve. The brutal subjugation of a peaceful agricultural world, where Vader ordered the summary execution of its leaders for minor defiance, left Obi-Wan with a profound sense of nausea. He remembered the Jedi's commitment to protecting the innocent, a stark contrast to the casual cruelty he now witnessed daily. Ahsoka, too, found herself recoiling from Vader's escalating brutality. She watched as he choked a loyal Imperial officer to death for a trivial mistake, his raw power terrifying in its unchecked fury. The cold, efficient pragmatism she had adopted began to crack, revealing the empathy she had suppressed. Their conversations became terse, filled with unspoken accusations and simmering resentment. The easy camaraderie they once shared was replaced by a chilling formality. Obi-Wan would often find himself staring at Vader's imposing form, searching for any flicker of the Anakin he had known, only to be met with the unyielding mask of the Sith Lord. Ahsoka, in turn, avoided Vader's gaze, the weight of their shared atrocities pressing down on her. The rationalizations they had clung to, for the greater good, for order, became hollow echoes in their minds, increasingly difficult to believe. The chasm between them widened with every act of Imperial cruelty, every innocent life extinguished, every whisper of Vader's growing madness. Their dark trinity was powerful, but it was also a prison, slowly suffocating the last vestiges of their former selves. The most agonizing of their duties, the one that truly twisted the knife in their souls, was the relentless hunt for surviving Jedi. Palpatine, ever cunning, understood the symbolic power of having former Jedi lead the extermination of their own kind. Darth Vader, with his boundless rage, relished the task. But for Obi-Wan Kenobi and Ahsoka Tano, each pursuit was a descent into a personal hell. Obi-Wan, now Lord Kenobi, found himself facing faces he had once known, masters he had respected, Padawans he had seen grow. He remembered shared meals in the temple refectory, sparring sessions in the training halls, and solemn discussions in the council chambers. Now he was tasked with their eradication. Every lightsaber clash, every force push, was a battle not just against his former brethren, but against the ghost of his own past. He would often hesitate, a fraction of a second too long, allowing a Jedi to escape or forcing Vader to step in, earning him a chilling glare from his former apprentice. The dark side demanded ruthlessness, but the echoes of his Jedi ideals, however faint, still whispered in his mind, making each kill a profound act of self-betrayal. Ahsoka, Lady Tano, fared no better. She was intimately familiar with the Jedi's tactics, their hiding spots, their patterns of evasion. This knowledge, once a tool for saving lives, was now used to snuff them out. She tracked down former friends, sometimes even those she had fought alongside during the Clone Wars. The sight of their bewildered, heartbroken faces as they realized who was hunting them was a torment. She remembered the camaraderie, the trust, the shared purpose. Now, that trust was shattered, replaced by fear and despair. There were moments when her hand trembled, when her resolve faltered, and the memories of her own unjust expulsion mingled with the horror of her current actions. The hunt for Jedi was not just a mission. It was a constant, brutal confrontation with the very core of who they had once been, forcing them to confront the profound betrayal of their past allegiances. The turning point, sharp and devastating, came on a desolate, forgotten world, its windswept plains echoing with a profound silence. Darth Vader, flanked by Lord Kenobi and Lady Tano, had cornered a small, desperate band of surviving Jedi. They were few, weary, and clearly outmatched. Led by a wizened master whose face, though lined with age and hardship, held a familiar serenity. Obi-Wan recognized him instantly. Master Ilara, who had once trained alongside him in the temple, her quiet wisdom a calming presence in their youth. As Vader, his heavy breathing a chilling prelude to destruction, prepared to deliver the killing blow, Master Ilara raised a trembling hand, not in defense, but in a gesture of profound acceptance. Her eyes, ancient and filled with an unwavering light, settled first on Obi-Wan, then on Ahsoka. There was no fear in them, no anger, only an overwhelming sadness that seemed to pierce through the DarkSide's shroud. "You have lost your way," she whispered, her voice surprisingly strong, resonating with a pure, unblemished force that had long been absent from their lives. "The path you walk leads only to desolation, but the light, it is always there, even in the deepest shadows." Her words were not a condemnation, but a lament, a mournful echo of the ideals they had abandoned. Something in that unwavering gaze, that steadfast beacon of light in a galaxy consumed by darkness, shattered the illusions Obi-Wan and Ahsoka had meticulously built around themselves. Obi-Wan saw the true horror of what he had become, the twisted reflection of his former self. The greater good he had rationalized was a monstrous lie. The order they had helped forge was nothing more than tyranny, built on the ashes of freedom and the screams of the innocent. Ahsoka felt a jolt, a sudden, agonizing clarity. The cold pragmatism she had adopted crumbled, revealing the raw pain beneath. She saw the faces of the Jedi she had hunted, the fear in their eyes, and now the profound sorrow in Master Ilara's. The warmth of the light, long suppressed, flickered within her, a desperate plea for recognition. In that single, agonizing moment, the true cost of their choices became terrifyingly clear. The wisdom of Master Ilara's words, shimmering with the raw power of the light side, resonated deep within Obi-Wan Kenobi and Ahsoka Tano. It was a searing indictment of their choices, but also a final, desperate glimmer of the path they had abandoned. In the immediate aftermath, as Darth Vader raised his crimson blade to strike down the defiant Jedi Master, a silent, terrible understanding passed between Lord Kenobi and Lady Tano. Their eyes met for a fleeting second, a lifetime of shared history and recent torment flashing between them. No words were needed. The unspoken question was answered with a shared, desperate resolve. In a breathtaking surge of rediscovered purpose, Obi-Wan moved first. His lightsaber, once a tool of Imperial enforcement, ignited with a snap hiss of brilliant blue. But instead of aiming for Master Ilara, his blade lashed out, catching Darth Vader's outstretched arm. The clang of metal on metal echoed across the desolate plains, a sound of profound betrayal and shocking defiance. Vader, momentarily stunned by the audacity, roared, his heavy breathing ragged with sudden rage. Almost simultaneously, Ahsoka Tano launched herself forward. Her two white-bladed lightsabers, which had so recently cut down Jedi, now flared to life, arcing through the air towards Vader with a renewed ferocity. Her movements, once cold and calculated, now pulsed with a desperate, almost reckless energy. This was not the pragmatic precision of Lady Tano, but the raw, impassioned fury of Ahsoka, striking out against the monster her friend had become. The battle that erupted was short, brutal, and tragically inevitable. It was not a fight for victory, but for redemption, a desperate, perhaps futile attempt to reclaim their souls. Obi-Wan fought with a rekindled fire, his every parry and thrust imbued with the weight of years of regret. Ahsoka, a whirlwind of defiant motion, struck with a ferocity born of sorrow and a desperate hope. Their combined assault, though powerful, was against a being consumed by limitless DarkSide power, a force of nature they had helped unleash. This was their final, desperate stand, a desperate plea for forgiveness from the Force itself.